What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege to be speaking with the former California State champion, current pro mixed martial artist. He is Geoff the Gentleman Mellor. Uh,
How's it
Geoff,
going,
what's up,
guys?
brother?
Doing good, man. Just chilling out, waiting for LFA fights to start. Hope I
Yeah,
want
man.
to be on this card, but they're the lucky ones.
What a crazy weekend, right? Because I mean, last weekend we had BKFC, LFA, Bellator making its return, and then the last fight on White Island, literally happening within like 12 hours of each other, something
Oh yeah,
crazy like that.
yeah. It's just a testament to how honestly how ready these guys stay all the time. It's crazy. Like everyone, I'm assuming everyone just basically stayed inside the gym the last 4 months or 5 months, whatever it's been.
Yeah, I kind of
Just
posted
waiting.
it at the beginning of this. Like gyms have become the new speakeasies. One light in the back. It's almost
Yeah, we've been calling it Anne Frank training. We're like, just close the door. It's Anne Frank style. Like we're hiding in the closet.
or even like I don't know, like a meth lab, right? Because all of the
Yeah,
lights all the lights are on. There's tinfoil in the windows, and you've got the one light in the back, and it's just like that's it,
yeah, just enough to see the punch coming at you, and that's it.
dude. I swear we're training Krav Maga, dude.
Ugh. Just put a blindfold on and just get at it.
That's it, dude. No, but geez, I mean, you've had a really awesome career thus far. I mean, obviously netting the title that I have behind me, the richest prize in all of California amateur mixed martial arts, and trading under Coach Adam Lynn at Subfighter. But how did you get your start, man? Because obviously there's easier ways to make a buck.
Oh, I knew that getting into it. But I started with wrestling. It was kind of a weird story. Like no one in my family ever had anything to do with MMA wrestling. No one even knew what it was in my family. I think the first time I watched it, I'd already been wrestling before that. But I started wrestling because my buddy convinced me to wrestle. They did some like little demo thing at middle school, and then he actually ended up quitting, and I just stuck with it. And then I'm like sitting there in college. It was fun. It's funny. I'm in college over there, and I am not a student. I'm the guy that barely graduated high school. I think I forged a note so that I could actually walk down the whatever the ramp and get my diploma. But I just did not like college. And I'm like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm gonna go do jujitsu and see what's up. And I think I lasted 3 months of no training after wrestling before I was like, I'm just gonna go fight, see what happens. I'll try it once and see if I like it. But
Well, I mean,
still here.
he likes it. Mikey really likes it because I mean, you're still here, dude. And I
Yeah,
mean,
dude. 16 times,
that's
16
kind of
fights later.
16 fights. That's nuts. Now, I mean, when did that whole process happen? Like, what year? What time period?
So my first fight was October 2015, but I remember it when I was like, it might have been 15 or 16, so probably what was that, 3 years before that. I remember telling my mom, like, I think I'm gonna fight. I don't know professionally, but I think I'm gonna fight. And she didn't believe me, of course. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna try it. And yeah, and then yeah, 2015 was the first fight, and pretty much fought 3-4 times every year since then.
That's sick. I mean, again, 16 fights in 5 years. Holy hell! That's a schedule that I don't even think James Brown in his peak could do, and he was the hardest working man in show business. So I'm saying,
It comes from that wrestling though. Like I used to wrestle 100 matches every year. It was 50 in the off season and 50 for the season. I think they cap you at like 52 or something like that before league. Might be like 40 something, but they cap you, so I would always get at least 100 matches every year, constantly just on the mats.
now what I guess school and wrestling team did you wrestle for?
Capistrano Valley High School. So I just did the high school thing. I mean, started doing it eighth grade, the end of eighth grade, and then did it all 4 years.
Now, I mean, that's gotta So from a family that didn't compete in any kind of combat sports, and then you're like, yeah, we're wrestling, and the max is like 52. 52 fights in a semester, or matches in a semester. So, I mean, what did your mom think? Obviously, like, she's like, I don't know what's going to happen, but like, was there a watershed moment where it's like your first, inclination of like a cauliflower ear, and she was like, "Oh, I think he's here now, and we're here now."
Oh, these things, these are messed up, but these all came from MMA. I didn't get these till I was already an adult. They make you wear the headgear in wrestling, and then once they stopped making me wear it, I was like, all right, I'm done with these. I want the badges over here.
That's cool. I mean, but that's also a badge of honor in these circles, right? That's that's I'm not fucking with that dude, because, or I mean, even in gals, Ronda Rousey's got some of the most gnarly cauliflower ears that you've ever seen.
Oh yeah, I mean, she's no Randy Couture, but yeah, they're pretty messed up, dude. No, it's
Yeah,
funny
man.
actually. It's funny you mentioned that because there was I was not fighting on the card clearly because I was an amateur at the time, but I was with Mike Segura, who's actually coming back to Sub Fighter now. But Mike Segura started to do his physical medical check, whatever, like blood pressure. Chael Sonnen was fighting on the same card. Complete politician, walks and shakes everybody's hand in the room. I just happened to be the last guy, and he like shakes my hand, grabs my hand, and he's like doing one of these, and I'm like sitting there trying like, what are you looking at? Like, what's behind? And he goes, "You got some fucking ears on you, man." And I'm like, and I grew up watching Chael Sonnen after I watched a bunch. That was like right when I started watching. It was when he was like top of his game. So I was like starstruck, and also like not offended, but kind of like, is this a compliment? And are you like, I have no idea. But I think it's a better story than having the boring like, oh hey, I met Chael Sonnen, he's cool. Like,
Yeah, no, and it's crazy because you mentioned about him being like the politician and shaking hands, but lest we forget, the gangster of West Lynn, Oregon, right? The American gangster Charles Sonnen, but much like Oregon and the Pacific Northwest is a staple for some of the best high school, I mean, junior high school, and collegiate wrestling, amateur, freestyle, and Greco-Roman. But it's also home of the Portland territory, Don Owens' Portland territory of pro wrestling fame, where they had Roddy Piper and guys like that. So,
oh yeah,
and Phil was a big fan, right? So that's the kind of pro wrestling thing to do. It's like, shake hands to everybody, whatever. And then there's actually a grip that happens. Like when you shake, it basically means like your grip, how hard or soft you are with your grip. It essentially is like, okay, if you're too stiff, you're going to hurt me tonight. If you're soft, that means I can work with you, and that was kind of like
oh
a
yeah. It's like, I'm gonna shake your arm to see how loose you are.
yeah, exactly. That's it, So I just love that even with, in his height of MMA kind of notoriety or whatever, he still stayed true to that like pro wrestling thing that got him to the dance. Because I mean,
Yeah,
yes,
right.
great wrestler, great fighter, but one thing when you say Chael Sonnen to anybody, it's his promo ability, and he got that straight from pro wrestling.
Oh yeah, there'll never be another bad guy like him. Maybe there will be, but you're still going to be chasing out. You're going to be compared to him.
Yeah, man, and even that him versus Tito for Bellator at the Forum. Now, this is crazy to me because I grew up for the most part in Inglewood, and had my high school graduation ceremony right there at the Forum, and back in 2008. I mean, MMA wasn't even legal here, right? Let alone
Yeah.
less than what 10, 15 years later, you're getting two of the biggest stars that had ever competed in MMA, right? Legit first ballot Hall of Famers, and Chael
Yeah.
should be
Pioneers of the
a
sport.
legit Hall of Famer, and they're doing battle for the second biggest promotion, and the second biggest promotion can still draw 17,000 people in my hometown arena. And that was just like, and then the promos between them, it just, oh man, it was so good. So good.
Well, that's that. The whole reason for that is, like you said, they both have that like pro wrestler like style of shit talk of like, all right, I'm gonna be animated and overly so, and just come at you, and it sells fights. I love it.
Absolutely.
So everyone wants to watch.
Absolutely. I mean, no other than Jim Ross, Hall of Fame, you know, pro wrestling commentator, and he's done MMA and boxing and what have you. But he says it's all about putting an ass in every 18 inches, and whether that be, paying for the stream at home, going down to the watering hole with your buddies to go watch the fight, or being at the fights themselves, it's an ass in every 18 inches. And if you can do that, you can essentially write your ticket wherever, MMA or combat sports or out of it, and it's so funny because all of the greats, whether it be Ali, Mike Tyson, just everybody in traditional combat sports, right, or sports in general, Richard Sherman in the NFL, Sean Merriman, like all of those guys are pro wrestling fans, right? And you could see it because they develop personas. So I just think that, they're kind of like strange kissing cousins, MMA and pro wrestling, especially when you get into like Pat Praise and Pride and all of that. Rampage Jackson, Vanderlei Silva, pro wrestling fans, and it's just like he developed a persona. And again, they are names that that have crossed that pop culture lexicon. And even if you weren't an MMA fan, you know who these people are.
Oh yeah, and then there's people that like C.M. Punk that have crossed from, just because they're so good at that from WWE straight into the UFC, because they're a draw. They put, like you said, they put an ass in every 18 inches. So why not? I mean, that's worth something at the end of the day.
Yeah, 100%, dude. And I love that you mentioned, and you kind of dropped a little tidbit, but I mean, Segura coming back to Subfighter. Obviously, he spent time in Texas, had his son. But it's awesome because I mean, Mike Segura. The first time I ever went to Subfighter was actually filming Mike Segura for his Celtic Gladiator uh, a fight. And
Oh yeah,
that
I
was
remember that.
yeah, that's how we met.
Yeah. I think that was what, 2017,
27.
2018, something around.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
dude.
remember
That was like,
that was a cool little thing though. I like
yeah,
Celtic
dude.
Gladiator. Were they still doing shows? I didn't hear anything about them for a while. They did
No,
like
they,
4 or 5 there. Remember?
so I mean, obviously they're based in the UK,
Yeah.
Ireland specifically, but they they just had a card. I mean, because I'm blanking here. I want to say it was last year, and I should
Oh,
know because I worked that card. I should know, but
dude,
fights
there
that
are
happen
fights
through
that
the
I
weekend.
fought in that I'm like, I don't remember where it was. They're like, oh, where was that? I'm like, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean that's what makes us tenured young vets in this kind of game. That it's just like the amount of miles and punches and whatever we don't even remember because we're on to the next thing.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest is I like to remember like the names and faces of the guys that I fight, and there's some where I'm like, yeah, I don't even know. I'm like, I remember the venue or something, but I always forget one little detail. I'm like, oh, who was I even fighting? Like, who was that?
Well, I
You know,
mean,
maybe
but
I'll look it
again,
up and I'll remember. But
yeah, but again, 16 fights in, you gotta, something has to fall by the wayside. And it's no disrespect, but I mean, better a name to drop off than the combo that you were supposed to that you've been drilling, and then that falls out. But you remember the guy that hit you or submitted you,
oh yeah, for
that
sure. You're always gonna remember that guy.
right,
I still
100%.
remember Nathan Levy smashing his or breaking his hand on my forehead. I'm gonna remember that the rest of my life.
Really?
Yeah, that was like my 5th fight or No, seventh fight actually. I was 4-2 going into that seventh fight. That was fun.
No, okay, I'm gonna have you elaborate because like and maybe I might have been there, but let's
No, this
let's
was
go.
in Vegas. This was in Vegas.
This
This
was
was
in
his
Vegas and
last.
Tough Enough, right?
Yeah, yeah, tough enough. This was his the Pack the Mac show. So this was his last fight as an amateur, and he basically like I had at that time I did not train with Chewy Gutierrez out of Raw Town Boxing, so I didn't have very much stand up. This guy's he's a good karate fighter, so he's kind of just keeping me at bay the whole time, the whole 3 rounds. Then the last round, he just mean overhand left connects, and I'm sitting there stunned, and I stayed on my feet luckily, but I'm like, I don't. My first thought was move forward for some reason, but then I started bouncing backwards because I couldn't even catch my balance.
Whoa!
Props to him. That was a big ass left hand.
But I mean, it was so big and so kind of impactful that he broke his hand while he threw it.
I was lucky he hit here and not here. Otherwise, that would have been a totally different story.
What? That's sick. And I mean,
I was known as no. Here's the thing though: is I was known as a headbutter in wrestling, so I have a kind of a hard head.
yeah, sometimes it's the thinking man's, or at least the placement of one's head that could turn the tide of a fight.
No, he still choked me after that. So it was
Yeah,
not
well,
only did he gave me that concussion, then he tapped me out, and I'm like, you son of a bitch.
Oh, that sucks. That sucks.
Whatever.
Now, I mean, you did warn me, right? Because the names and the places and the faces kind of kind of become a blitzkrieg, so to speak, in the kind of evolution of your fight acumen and your dedication to the sport. But I mean, 16 fights in, what has been the most memorable thus far of the journey that you're like, that's the one I can tell my, not just my kids, but my grandkids about?
Honestly, right now the Pack the Mac one was one of the most memorable, not only because of the fight, but because of another veteran, because there's a bunch of veterans that train out of Subfighter, but another veteran, Justin Governal, who just fought for Fury not too long ago, I believe. But he was with me, Adam, and then my family were all in the hospital after that, and it was EDC weekend, so that we see a bunch of literal fairies, like in fairy wings, walking around the emergency room. So that was one of the most memorable parts of any of my fights, and we're sitting there like I'm all bandaged up. He's still got the video somewhere. I gotta send that to you.
And it's hilarious because those fairies got submitted in a completely different manner than what you did.
Yeah, right. They're there for totally different reasons.
Yeah, completely different reasons. But you know what? It's funny because they I think it was like Bret Hart that said that like during his time, away from his wife and what have you, he would fall into the bosom of strippers and what have you, right? And it's funny because they're kind of the same, right? Putting their bodies on the line for their craft, so to speak, and kind of a nomadic existence and whatever. So, I mean, right there, the same endorphins that were running through those fairies, bodies, whatever.
It's all art, baby. It's all art, baby.
Dude, that's so funny. That's hilarious. Now,
yeah,
I mean,
that was probably the most memorable.
Yeah, I guess walking out, right? Because after a crazy night like that, having fought in the Thomas and Mack Center, I mean, for those who don't know about Pack the Mac, I mean, it's what Geoff Mellor has kind of taken on after the passing of his brother Barry, and I mean, literally, it's a free show at the Thomas and Mack Center, and I mean, it's a raucous I think it's like 14,000-15,000 people.
Yeah, I think it was something around like 12,000 people that were there that night or something. So that was awesome, is being able to fight under such a big show and get to do it early.
Yeah, and then have the rest of the night to chase around. I guess fairies.
No, the rest of the night to be in a hospital puking.
But I mean, so too were the fairies in the next
Yeah,
room.
that's
So
true. Or that's Vegas. That's part of it.
10 points, 10 points there for sure. Now, obviously, I mean, you're training at a sub fighter, but how did obviously kind of parlaying your career in, in wrestling, right? High school wrestling, and then, you know, ending up fighting Adam Lynn in sub fighter there in Laguna. How did that come about?
Well, so it's funny. I lived right next to Subfighter my whole life. I grew up probably 2 off ramps down from it, but I randomly walked into like a UFC gym after high school and was like, oh, I just want to start doing some grappling, maybe like learn how to box a little bit, because that's right. Most people get their start in UFC gym or an LA boxing back in the day or something like that. At least learn how to do some basic stuff. So I went in there, did a little bit of jiu-jitsu. I ran into Geoff Willingham, who was the jiu-jitsu coach. Great. He actually has a double black belt now under the 10th Planet and under Pedro Sauer. So yeah, I was training under him, and he just happened to move to Diamond Bar, which is where he's still at, and he's actually opening up his own jiu-jitsu gym called Limitless Academy of Jiu-Jitsu, I believe. And yeah, so if you're in the Diamond Bar area, go check him out. He's a fantastic coach. But he, in the process of moving to Diamond Bar, was like, hey, I used to train with these guys back in the day. Go over there. Like, I know you're not going to drive to Diamond Bar every day, bro. Like, go jump over there and train with them. I'm like, cool. All right, I'm over there.
Now, obviously, I mean, were you doing any sort of striking over at UFC gym?
Yeah, I mean, Geoff kind of took me under his wing, to be honest with you. Like, I think he saw the fact that I was actually serious about it. So he was just kind of like, all right, yeah, like, let's just do some. He would do mitt work with me, just a little bit of stuff. I never really sparred or anything like that, but just learned how to do basic punches, and that's about it.
Dang. So then, I mean, going from and you know the story about the UFC gym, right? All of those were supposed to be tap out gyms, and then Mask from that tap out crew unfortunately passed away, and then Dana White and the crew were like, "Why don't we just brand them UFC gyms?" And the rest is history. Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, going from that environment where it's kind of very like family style oriented gym, and then going to like a true and blue mixed martial arts gym, like what was that transition like?
It almost felt right. Like, I mean, I didn't like the vibe of the UFC gym there. I was there just for the coach that was there, and he was willing to work with me. So I was there for that reason. But walking into Subfighter, it was, at the time, there was puzzle piece mats on the ground. There's cages all over the place, bags all over the place. Now it's a little bit more upgraded. But back in the day, I was like, oh, this is like a grimy wrestling room. All right, I'm in. Like, I immediately felt at home. I was like, oh, cool, grimy wrestling room, got it. Which kind of is.
It is, though. It is, absolutely. Now, I mean, who was like on the mats during that initial period? Was it like Segura?
Yeah, so it was like Segura, Ashley Evans Smith, Justin Governal was one of the first guys I met there, because he was running the jiu-jitsu program a little bit at the time. There was Blake Belshi, another pro fighter, Arian Sharif, a bunch of guys in there at that time. And then we always had the Fight Strong guys from San Clemente coming up and sparring with us and all that stuff. So at that time, that room was full of professional fighters every day. And it still is. It's still full, but just a different generation of them.
Now, was that a lot to take in? Because, I mean, it's kind of sanitized with, like, the UFC gym and what have you. And then now It's not just like, hey, I'm an amateur, former wrestler in this. But, I mean, like, everybody here is pros. Like, was it kind of a sink or swim, or did somebody kind of take you aside and be like, hey, this is the lay of the land? What was that like?
I mean, Justin did that a little bit, but not really. That doesn't really happen too much at Subfighter unless it's like, I mean, unless you're going to the technique classes and stuff like that. But I kind of put myself in that weird situation of sink or swim because I stupidly just showed up to the pro classes. I showed up and I was like, oh yeah, so I work at nights. Do you guys have day classes? And I talked to I was actually just talking to a pro fighter that was there. I think it was Blake Belshie, and he was like, oh yeah, we do a 10:30 a.m. class. Just come into that, and you'll probably be all right. And and then little did I know, I showed up on Monday, and it was a sparring day, and I've pretty much never really sparred other than like kids from a UFC gym, and I just got my ass beat. So
Fuck.
I came back, but that was definitely a big eye opener of like, oh shit, this is no joke now.
No, absolutely. And I mean, you're training, right? But I mean, what's the kind of decision made up in your mind? Like, hey, I'm going to fight. Had you taken a fight before, or was it just like all via sub fighter?
No, it was all via Subfighter. My first fight was under them. They kind of told me, like, I think I walked in the door, like I was the quiet little 18-year-old kid, but I walked in the door, and I think within a week I had told Adam, like, yeah, I want to actually like fight. So that'd be cool if you guys could get me to that point where I'm ready. And like, I know I'm not ready yet, but he's like, yeah, just give me a year. I think it ended up being like a year and a half, and then they finally said, all right, yeah, you're ready.
Damn, that's nuts. And I
So
mean,
I
even
grew
like
up.
you were saying,
I said I grew up under them, so yeah.
that's pretty sick. I mean, that's gotta be a. I thought I had a first like crazy intense first sparring day because like when I first started training, I was training all gi jiu-jitsu in Bakersfield under a husband and wife, John Jock black belts, right? Matt and Jill Baker, right? And then come down to Pasadena, and it's Fight Academy with Savant Young and all of that. And I was like, oh, I, I have this like free trial, like 3 class thing. I might as well do striking or whatever, right? So I stayed, and I stayed, and they paired me up with James the Beast Wilson,
Oh God.
who's yes, you already know,
I
right?
know exactly.
And
Yeah, I know. He's got his 2 little killer sons that he trains all the time on
yes,
Instagram. Yeah.
yes, and even me as a 35-year-old adult probably couldn't handle James Wilson's sons 2 years ago, let
No,
alone
and
James himself.
they're like 7 or 8 or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Those
So
kids got cleaner hands than I do.
yeah, and I can't wait until he turns those two loose because, like in a Creation, USFL type whatever, because it's just ah. Yeah. So
So how was that, dude? How was that sparring with him? He's a murderer.
yes. So first day, right? Didn't know anything from anybody. I'm just having gi jiu-jitsu, not even no gi jiu-jitsu, and
Yeah.
coming down, and he's like, "I'm a whole pass for you," and I'm like, "Whatever you say." I'm like, "I'm not gonna." You're a mountain with a head, like
Yeah.
I'm not,
Like, you can
you
have
know. So,
whatever you want. I'll do whatever. Just don't hurt me.
yes, exactly, right. So he pads, and he's like, "Have you done this before?" And I was like, "No, no." And he was just like, "Okay," and he was like very slow, right? And then I kind of got the routine. I'm horrible in terms of rhythm, like horrible,
Yeah.
completely, right? So he's gonna hit the pads and whatever, and then he's like, Savant goes, "Okay, we're gonna go live with the drilling part, right?" So everybody's like, I was like, and James is like, "Hit me harder," and I'm like, "Hit me harder." But and then because I knew full well that roles were gonna get reversed, and I'm gonna have to hold the bounce right here. I
Oh
would have
yeah.
ended up other side of the building or other side of Pasadena, rather.
He's
So,
gonna push kick you right into the wall.
yes, yeah, just keep the hell out of my just keeping it internally and over jazz. But I mean, the great guy, you know, that was scary. But I think actually going live, I think you might have actually had a more precarious and like I guess nail biting experience.
I don't. Probably. I don't know. I was just getting. Like I said, I think I just got like they told me I could double leg because that was the only thing I knew how to do at that point as a wrestler. They're like, yeah, they're gonna strike, but you could do double leg. So I think I was just marching forward like this and going, and then hoping to take them down, eating a bunch of knees and punches in the process.
Ooh, buddy. How not did it make up for you after that first session?
I'm sorry, your mic's kind of cutting out. What'd you say?
No, I said how started up for you after that first training session.
Oh, I had beaten puppy dog syndrome. I'm sure. Just sitting there
Yeah.
like shaking. Please stop.
I mean, how long was the sparring session? It was like maybe 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah, it was like a 15-minute warm up, 45 minutes sparring, and then it's like, all right, cool, you're good, go home. I'm like, all right, thank you for beating me up. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, and I mean, what was the course of action? I mean, were you? I mean, you knew that you made that vow that you're going to show up tomorrow. So was it like, oh my gosh, let me like throw some Epsom salt or sit in some ice or something? You know, like what were you doing?
I have no idea. Honestly, I probably just went home and licked my wounds, and then the next day I was like, just don't die today. That's all you have to do. Don't die. But, oh well. You can't make a sword without fire, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, and it's my goodness. I mean, that was a trial by fire. But obviously, like, when did you know? Was it a conversation that you and Adam had, or some of your other teammates kind of realized, like, hey, the kid's got something here, and like this could be a real kind of avenue for you to carve out for yourself.
So I think Adam does this thing where he likes to kind of, and he maybe it was just me, but I feel like he kind of like just left me alone for like 2 or 3 months and was like, I'm gonna see if he just sticks around. And like obviously he's helping out and all that, but then after a couple months, I think he said something. It was never like he sat me down, but made a couple just comments off to the side of like, oh yeah, you're actually doing pretty well at this, like blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh, maybe I do, maybe there is something here. I don't know. And then obviously, yeah, like I said, like a year later, we actually sat down and had that conversation. And he was like, what weight? Where do you want to fight at? Blah, blah, blah. Like, do you think you're ready? I think you're ready. Do you? And all that. So that was probably one of the best conversations ever of like getting that affirmation of like, oh yeah, you look like you know what you're doing. Let's see. Let's test it out.
No, that's a badge of honor because I mean, in any kind of vocation, you want the respect of your peers, so to speak, right? So,
Yeah.
especially with somebody like Adam pedigree, it's for him to kind of go like, okay, this is not just a money grab. Like, we've got a future. He's investing in me, and I'm gonna invest right now. And it's just like that watershed moment. I mean, I'm still a forever white belt, but I remember Herb Dean walking into Fight Academy one day, right? Never rolled with him at all before, knowing he's a black belt and tenured vet and all that jazz, right? And it was one of the roughest 5 minutes of my life, right? Because we weren't doing 3 minute rounds, we were doing five for whatever reason that day, and I think it was just to kind of make me piss myself. But I digress. After the roll, he goes, "You've rolled before, haven't you?" And I was just like, "Shit!" I was on cloud nine. Herb Dean said, "I've
Yeah.
rolled before. Holy fuck!" Although it felt like it was just like a gorilla and a kitten. I felt like a kitten, like with his grips and just wow. I knew any given moment, and Savant Young is the same way. He's all of like 5'9", 5'7" to 5'9" or whatever, but just built like whatever, and just knowing like he could end your life. He turns those hips or whatever, you know. Yeah,
It's a lion toying with a mouse at that point, and you're like, when is it coming? When is it coming?
yeah. And it's just glad that they haven't turned that switch.
So maybe the black belt is just trying to help you out. You hope that he's not out there trying to kill you, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, not to say that those don't exist, but I mean, it's fun for the both of us in those kind of initial kind of dealings that it didn't happen.
Yeah, right. And it's kind of funny because it's come full circle at this point. Now I'm teaching jujitsu and I run the beginner striking program for sub fighters. So it's like this weird like full circle thing where I'm just like, oh, cool. All right, now I'm in kind of a different role, but still a part of the same system, which is awesome.
Yeah, that is pretty sick, and that had to be a cool little like. Again, you were talking about like Adam showing a little bit more interest in you and what have you after like second or third month, but then having the conversation that he has entrusted you with teaching like the next wave of potential fighters, or I mean, even just people that are coming in just to lose weight or gain self
Yeah.
confidence or have been bullied and what have you, and he's entrusted that you know essentially the gospel that you're able to lead the sermon.
I'm drinking the same Kool-Aid as he likes to say.
Same, yeah, absolutely. Just yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty cool though actually because now it's like I got there's a couple like 18, 19-year-old kids that are in there that I'm like, oh, I kind of I see where you're coming from. Like I get it. It makes sense to me, and I'm like, and that's why I love to be that guy. I actually like running the beginner program now because it's like I like to be the guy that's like, fuck yeah, go for it. Why not?
wow.
No one else
And
is
it's
going to
just
tell
like,
you that. So fuck it.
and it's essentially you that's giving the green light to the next wave.
Yeah, kind of, somewhat. I mean, I kind of leave it up to them, but there's some kid. I've kicked a few people out of my class and been like, why are you still here? Go to the intermediate class and do something.
Wow. Oh man,
It's,
the teacher has become. I mean, the student
no,
has become the teacher.
I would. Well, yeah. I thought you were going to say master. I was like, I wouldn't say master, but no, teacher. Yeah, teacher. Let's just leave it at that. I'm just trying my best.
That's
I
awesome.
probably
Well,
showed some wrong things in the past though, so whatever.
well, not to fill you up with bullshit, but I mean, there's still a class that you teach, right? There's still people there, right?
Yeah, it's true.
That's success. Success.
There you go.
No, I mean, taking that first fight, right? I mean, um, and having a game plan and what have you. I mean, what was that like? I mean, were there nerves? Obviously, you've competed in wrestling before, but I mean, what was that like? What was the differences? Competing on that stage, um, and then being fully able to trust your coach and his teachings. Like, what was that like?
Uh, well, to be honest with you, that fight was so fast. I don't even remember it. Like most of it, I remember getting punched in the face. I shot a double leg, and then he choked me. It was 50-second long, so um, that part I don't really remember too much of it other than that. But then you're right, like the walking out part and dealing with all the lights and pressure. Because wrestling, there's like 15 people in the stands that aren't even a part of your team. Like no one's actually watching. It's moms and dads and all that. And then now I think it was at the next level sport complex
Yeah,
over in like Long Beach Garden Grove area. But it was there and it was like oh, whoa, everybody's actually just watching me. There's not 6 other matches going on right now. Oh, wow, this is way different. Like, and so that I think that was the biggest thing getting, my bad. That was the biggest thing getting out of that one was, I was like, oh, I got to get over that part. So that was the best experience out of that. But the fight itself, I took a lesson of, I had a bad game plan. That was about it. But that was because I was so one-dimensional that my whole game plan was double leg. And then we'll see what happens after that.
Well, I mean, it's kind of apropos that, double leg was the very thing on your first striking class, and then it kind of permeated into your first fight. And like, as long as I double leg, we'll figure out the rest.
Yeah, it didn't work out, but we'll try.
Yeah, and I mean, even in trying, you've essentially ascended, higher than like 99.999% of the world's population in terms of being able to know what their strengths and what their weaknesses and where you are in the pecking order of life.
That's true. Actually, I have kind of a weird. Well, I don't know, but there's this one, not weird or funny, but there's this. It was a really cool story of this one ref. I forget who it was, but my first pro fight, he's like, oh, does this whole rounds. He's introducing himself to all the people he's cornering or reffing that night, and he comes up to me and he's like, oh, this is your first pro fight, right? And he's like, all right, so do you want the first pro fight talk? And I'm like, sure. What's that? Like, what does that have to do with? And he's like, okay, yeah. So pretty much along the lines of what you said, like, you are now a professional athlete. That means somebody paid you to do what you love to do. That is something that 99.99% of people cannot say, and you can. So no matter what happens tonight, just go have fun. You're now a professional athlete. Congrats, kid. You made it. And I was like, oh, like, it was just such a surreal moment of like, whoa, okay, this is really cool. And then luckily I got to choke another man unconscious that same night. So,
but it was a cool fucking story. It was a good night. It's a cool story.
A little heartfelt on sometimes. I can bring out the emotions.
Yeah, man. And I mean, what better way to kind of like engage your emotions and what have you? I mean, it's breathtaking highs, painstaking lows, and everything in between. Your fight camp, I mean, just your immune system. Your immune system takes a hit, and that's not even like in the throes of weight cutting and all of the stuff. And then now you're finally here, and it's just, man, it's something that even after or before, fights that we've covered and everything like that, just stepping into the cage, and I'm like in a damn suit and whatever, or a t-shirt or whatever, and just making that step, climbing up the steps into the cage, into the ring. And that is unnerving because you kind of know what happens here, let alone you're the one engaging in it. You're the one participating. It's nuts.
Every fight puts an imprint of energy in that cage, and it stays there forever. You feel that every time, even if you're just the corner, if you're the commentator, anything, you feel that. The cameraman, ring girl, I'm sure they still feel it too. They feel that energy of like, oh, okay, this is a place where battle has been done. Like, somebody's bled over there.
Oh yeah, I mean, literally every bodily fluid has kind of commenced on that very canvas, and it's just like, but this is where warriors have basically done battle, and you are going to, in some ways, etch your name right alongside, in spirit and in virtue as them, win, lose, or draw, and that's the fun thing about just doing interviews with whatever. Win, lose, draw, whatever. That doesn't take away that you are a fighter. Pro, amateur, doesn't matter. You're a fighter. Like, that's just by doing that, it's just like,
you instantly have my respect no matter what. I don't care if you look like shit and you got knocked out in 5 seconds. You have my respect, sir. You have a pair of nuts hanging down, or some lady nuts, whatever you want to, whatever.
Right, quality. No, for sure. No, I mean, obviously, not in addition to your fighting career and teaching classes at Subfighter, but being a coach, because I want to get into that because obviously, I think this is just me. The fighters who coach, whether it be an injury or just they're not fighting on that card, they will see things in basically developing a game plan for a fighter or their teammate, then and you realize angles that they hadn't really seen when they're fighting themselves because there's a whole lot of other things that you're contending with when you actually fight. So what's that process like?
Oh, absolutely. It's it's a whole nother animal, but it's the same species. Like I still, it's just funny because like you said, I'll see things, or even just it's another time for me to where I see something that I'm messing up on in sparring, or maybe Adam tells me something I'm messing up on, and I'll go back and I'll teach the next day. I'll teach a class based on that, and be like, I'm teaching this so that it cements in my head a little bit better, and then that way, when I have to explain it, I have to understand it. So that's mainly what I loved about it, was it gave me just that extra repetition in your mind. Like your body might not be doing it, but your mind is at least doing it. And yeah, like you said, you see more from the outside than you do from the inside. So it's cool to see those little like, oh, you could do this, but maybe you could also do this, and then they're all staring at you like, what are we doing? And you're like, my bad. Okay, yeah, we're doing just this, like just a simple motion. I just got carried away. I've had a couple
Yeah,
moments like that.
no, absolutely, and and it's a fine line, right? Because obviously you want to in the day, well, you want to give your fighter, your teammate, as much information as they need, right? But then also
Yeah.
you don't want to overload them too, because sometimes it's information overload, and then
Oh
you
yeah.
could fail to pull the trigger because of that.
Yeah, and remember, I teach beginner striking, so I'm sitting over here I'm thinking of all these complex motions, and I'm like, oh, this guy doesn't actually fully understand a jab yet. I should probably calm down.
It's that ebb and flow.
Yeah, right.
Now, obviously, I mean, we're kind of in like LFA time, and we've got a UFC tomorrow. Um, what are some of the fights that are exciting you coming down the pipeline?
So I'm like like we were talking about. I'm a big. I like to watch the guys that I've fought alongside, or even fought against. Like I fought my last card. I think there was there's Jamal Emmers fighting fighting, and he fought on the card along with me, and so I would like to watch him fight. I'd like to watch Rosales. He fought on that same card as well. It's funny when you watch. Maybe you'll definitely be able to hear it because there's no crowd. But his coach, their combos are named after serial killers. So his
Yep.
coach is yelling like Manson and like all these crazy things, and I'm like, I love it. Like that's so cool. So I like seeing that energy that they have.
No, 100%. And I actually posted it. So you're referring to CSW and Ben Jones. There was,
Yeah.
I believe it was like a Spar Star, right? And I can't remember which guy at CSW. Please don't maim me, please don't. But basically, Ben Jones was doing the Badger Slap, right? And Mylan Error was standing right there, and I guess he didn't know, all of the fights that Mylan Harris has covered and refed and judged and everything like that. I don't know. Maybe he forgot about the Badger Slap and whatever. So he was in the inspection outside of the cage, not referee, right? Checking the grease and all that jazz. And Ben Jones, hug, and then the Badger Slap comes, and literally Mylan is like, what the you would have thought he was selling it like he was fighting.
Yeah, right. He's like, oh, he might have thrown a counter back.
Yeah, dude, and I mean, you got to shout out because not only is Jacob fighting tonight, but I mean, probably as of right now, um, Jackie Gosh, who's also of CSW. He's fighting on the card, and then
Oh yeah,
uh, yeah, and then Jamal Emmers, him and his coach Jacob Bainey, along with former Bellator champion Darion Caldwell, they cross train Pinnacle MMA down in Redlands
yeah.
and CSW. They cross train, so they're like
It's
all
crazy
teammates. So
how
you got like,
well. It's crazy how during the lockdown times, it's been all Southern California fighters that have been stepping up and getting those calls, which maybe it's just luck, or it's the luck, or it's whatever. I mean, I don't know what it is, but I know that Gabe Green, he's fought in Bellator. He just got a call. He got a call up to the UFC. Obviously, there's a couple LFA guys that got calls up, and we're just filling last minute spots. Like I think the guy who's filling for Ray Borg is a local guy, right?
yeah, former King of the Cage champion,
Yeah, so
like Kid
it's
Kavemba.
cool to see the local guys.
Yeah, Johnny Munoz, and
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
out
yeah.
there in what is it? The training lab with Juan Archuleta and Mark Munoz and TJ Dillashaw, Cub Swanson. Like that's
Yeah.
the pedigree that we're gonna be seeing tomorrow. So it's nuts. It's nuts.
Oh, for sure. But I like I said, I just love the fact that I'm seeing all these local guys get the call. It gives me hope.
Yeah,
Hopefully
yeah,
they'll
and
call me.
once everything kind of works itself back up, because there's gonna be if those cards are getting filled and those guys and girls are getting contracts, well, guess what? The local scene kind of has to replenish itself. And, a title fight happens where it wouldn't have happened, pre-COVID. So it's just, it plenties the well for all of us, really.
Oh yeah, and not to mention you can't lock a fighter up for 4 months and not expect him to try to bite his own hand off. He's gonna be hungry once that lockdown's lifted.
Damn right. Damn right. So, dude, I mean, it's crazy because we've like in passing we're just like cool whatever, but just to kind of like do one of these kind of long form podcasts with you, it's just like damn, dude, like you're so much cooler than what I even gave you credit for. So, dude, I
Oh,
appreciate
thank you.
you for doing this.
No, I appreciate you, man. This has been fun. It's been fun
Yeah,
actually
man.
getting to have a conversation with you. We're always in passing and like, oh hey, how's it going, man? I'm running to weigh-ins.
Right, right. So it's this kind of time where everybody seems to be kind of like, you voted this way and blah blah blah, whatever. And it's just like, dude, here it doesn't matter what you believe, who you voted for, whatever. We're kind of a team, we're a family, and having
Yeah.
these opportunities to kind of check in and see how we all are doing. It just shows like, man, everybody in the rest of the world kind of needs a little bit of MMA in their life because you realize what's important and what isn't.
Right? Jesus, Buddha, and Allah all love knockouts. I promise you.
Three-way dance, one night tournament, and let's do it for all eternity. I love it.
They all love knockouts.
Right? Right? I think there's like a mode, like a ultimate KO mode in like the new UFC game. That's just like, now you got me turning, and I'm gonna do like a create a player of each, and I'll probably scream it or something.
Oh yeah, I want to see that.
Now, dude, obviously you step into the cage alone, but I mean you have a throng of support behind you. Let's get some shout outs out of the way.
Okay, so obviously Coach Adam Lynn out of Subfighter, Chewy Gutierrez out of Raw Talent Boxing. He's obviously my boxing coach. I got Coach Matt over there at Pro Stack Sport. He's our strength and conditioning coach. So I got a whole team behind me and everybody. And Andrew Freelove helps me get ready for all my fights. Blake Builder, Mark Zarin, all these other guys out of Subfighter and Raw Talent. Arian Sharif. Still got one of the OGs at Subfighter helping us get ready. But yeah, we got a great team over there.
Damn right, dude. And again, love Adelin, love Chewy, and you see what he's done in both boxing and MMA, having boxed himself and It's just
Yeah.
amazing. Uh, Justin's amazing. He's like tough and rugged, exterior, but like he is like the sweetest guy ever.
Yeah, right. And then he'll tell you a messed up story right afterwards.
Yes, yes, dude. I mean, I I think that was like one of my favorite like moments of King of the Cage, and I can't remember who was fighting, but or it might have been Justin himself, and you know, yeah, I think it might have been Justin himself, and Adam was wrapping hands or whatever, and you know, just gotta say hey, whatever, and I forgot. It was like a really fucked up joke, but like it it just eased like everybody because there was like shared locker rooms. Like there's like four
Yeah.
fighters and coaches and all that jazz, and there was like absolutely no reception on anybody's cell phone. Like at the in the arena out there in Ontario, so everything was just like fucking footloose and fancy free. And he said something, and it cracked the whole fucking like the whole locker room up. Like didn't matter. Everybody was like mugging before it, and he said something so foul, and everybody was just like, I mean, like on the floor. I mean, that dude had like ultimate KOs, and everybody there because everybody was like writhing, laughing, like fucking a.
Oh yeah. That's just Justin though. He has to be in the spotlight, bro. I've told him so many times like when's the comedy career coming?
Dude, like him, Free Love has got the Fight Life connoisseur. You got oh God, there's a damn it, I'm forgetting the old dude's name, and it'll come to me. But he's out of King's MMA, and um, he's actually a comedian, like part-time fighter, part-time comedian. Yeah, absolutely. Damn,
He's got
fuck,
he's
I
got
get.
two nighttime jobs. It's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's kind of full-time fun, I guess.
Yeah, right. Who doesn't want to get on a stage in front of a bunch of people?
Literally, yeah. And I mean, come on, Ian Harris does it. Same thing with Adam Hunter. Being able to coach and you know get into like the thick of fighting and shit. So I mean, I'm moderately good at one thing, but to be like more than subpar in like a couple of different things, especially like comedy and fighting, which I mean that's as taxing as you can get. And
yeah, but you're funny, so you can make it work. Don't worry, you're funny. You'll get it done. Just crack a joke. No one will remember what you said.
Yeah, no worries. Hey, I mean, it's better than releasing a mixtape on SoundCloud, so there's that.
Yeah, right. Check out. Wait for the Gentleman album coming out soon.
There it is. There it is. This is not a multi-marketing scheme. This is just all marketing. Here, check out that Gentleman mixtape because it is fire.
Oh, that'll never happen ever.
Yeah, exactly. Because everybody, as long as they've got this, what we're kind of expounding, might not be good for their eardrum. So it's a good thing that we stuck to this.
I put my eggs in one basket. Let's just keep them there.
Hell yes, damn right. It's better to be good at least something than like absolutely shitty on everything.
It's true. It's very true.
It is true. But for those who haven't followed the life and styles of one gentleman, Geoff Mellor, where can they find you on social media, my man?
All I have is Instagram, and it's Gentleman MMA. Very short and sweet and simple. Roll up those wrists. Take the pipe out of your mouth.
Yes, and challenge people to duels with the whole glove slap. I love it.
Bro, I've got a top hat somewhere. I got to bring that thing out in a fight one day.
Dude, top hat and monocle? Dude, we've got something.
Yeah, right? Either I'm going to look like an asshole and everyone's going to want to see me get knocked out, or they'll like it. And either way, they're going to want to see me fight.
Exactly. Again, an ass in every 18 inches.
There you go.
Damn right. Dude, thank you for joining us here. Obviously, there's some great fights. Again, LFA, UFC, and definitely next time, Geoff, fights, you're going to want to follow Gentleman MMA to see what he's doing, and the team at Sub Fighter. Dude, thank you for this.
Thank you, man. This is fun.
Damn right. For Gentleman Geoff, I'm According to Woods, and we are out. Thank you guys for joining us. And like, share, and subscribe. I should say that.